everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to share my work with you. My name is Sofia Vidaurre, and I am an undergraduate student at UCLA. I am majoring in sociology. I'm interested in the experience of migration, but specifically when families do not travel together. So that leads us to my research question. What are the effects on mother-daughter relationships due to migration separation? In this presentation, I'll be sharing my findings that are still ongoing. First, I have to mention a few scholars who have done related work. Dr. Lacey Abrego, who is a professor in Chicana and Chicano studies at our very own UCLA, has authored Sacrificing Families, Navigating Laws, Labor, and Love Across Borders. Abrego writes about Salvadorian immigrants and their families both in the U.S. and El Salvador. She investigates the structural barriers, like policies, that immigrant parents and children face. Next, I eagerly interviewed NYU professor Dr. Drubby, and I interviewed her about this book right here, Divided by Borders, Mexican Migrants and Their Children. And I interviewed her about the research process behind the book, and I used it as a model for this research. Lastly, Dr. Professor Gabrielle Alveida at Boston University, who throughout the pandemic has continued to discuss mother-daughter migration experience through Zoom webinars and YouTube videos. Dr. Alveida's book, Motherhood Across Borders, Immigrants and Their Children in Mexico and New York, is her research on transnational motherhood and how parenting across borders affects children's educational experiences. I draw on all these scholars and their work and the research I'm presenting today. After being certified to conduct human subject research and being IRB approved, I immediately started recruiting participants either by word of mouth or women that I just personally know. I started with daughters first. I was looking for 4 attributes. I wanted young women who migrated from Latin America to the U.S., who experienced separation from their mothers due to migration, who have since reunified with their mother, who are either currently students in higher education or have graduated from any level of higher education. The daughters connected me with their mothers who have migrated to the U.S. alone before them and have been reunified. So I conducted semi-structured online interviews that lasted for an average of 90 minutes, and I did so in English and Spanish, depending on the participant's preference. And to date, I've interviewed 5 daughters and 3 mothers, and today I'll talk about a selection of them. The interview themes were migration separation, mother-daughter relationships during and post-separation, and mechanisms used to cope with separation. The first daughter, Darla, migrated from Colombia at the age of 14, and she was separated from her mom at age 2. Moving to the United States had never been discussed with Darla. She just always knew at some point she'd move from her grandma's in Colombia to the U.S. with her mom. She explained to me that when she found out when she was going to move here, she feared learning a new language and learning a new culture, but her grandma raised her to be independent and autonomous, and she doesn't associate her past experiences, so separation from her mom, with negative feelings or resentment towards her mom. In her own words, the older I've gotten, the more I've understood where my mom comes from, what she went through, and getting to know her history improved our relationship. At the end of the day, yeah, she wasn't there for me, but I'm not the main character. She also had to move here, be by herself at a young age, become independent, and grow faster than other people her age. If I was 14 having trouble understanding the culture and the language, my mother had experienced that as well. I had the pleasure to meet Denora, who is Darla's mother. And Denora's case is different from other mothers because her own mother, the matriarch of the family, decided that migrating to the U.S. was best for Denora. She migrated from Colombia at the young age of 21, and with her 3 children in mind, she left to work and study. And because of her flexible schedule, she was able to travel back to Colombia, sometimes for months at a time, and would immediately take on whatever role needed to serve the kids. She's assured them that since she received a bachelor's, they'll be going for more. The next study is Marisol from Nicaragua, and she migrated to the US at the age of 14 after being separated from her mom for about 13 years. Like Darla, she was nervous about migrating. She said, "I wanted to migrate, but I wasn't excited. It was more of a necessity for me." So Marisol focused on education, opportunities, and a better future in the US. Upon arrival, she immediately enrolled in a high school with a high population of immigrants and participated in a program that helped students adjust, transition, and learn English. The program newcomers had therapists and group conversations about how they were all actually not getting along with their parents. And for Marisol, the imaginary mom that lived in her head as a child was not like the strict mom that she found in the United States. In retrospect, she said, she admits to not understanding the emotion she was going through, but regardless, she always knew that her mom was in search of a better life. Maria is Marisol's mom, who migrated because of extreme poverty and political instability happening in Nicaragua. She said that she would purposely take Marisol to work to encourage her to study by showing her how intense housekeepers work, and how little they were paid. She said that she would try to deliver that message over and over and over again, and felt like it had worked when Marisol received her bachelor's degree. The next case study includes daughter number 3, who will be called Jimena. And Jimena migrated from Mexico at age 11. She separated from her mom at age 3 and occasionally saw her in Mexico. Jimena didn't want to migrate, even if her entire town romanticized about El Norte, the land of opportunities. At age 11, she already knew the difference between documented versus undocumented status due to the volume of immigration happening in her town. But Jimena's mom insisted on reunification. Her transition to the US triggered depression and suicidal thoughts for years, and she eventually developed a relationship with her mom. Reunification was difficult for Jimena, but she continued to see the US as full of opportunities, and Jimena will be graduating this year. Jimena's mom declined to participate, and although I was unable to interview her, I believe that the findings are equally as important to this research, as they show that the storytelling within immigrant communities are not as easy, and emphasize that there's ongoing healing even post reunification. So, I argued that the mother and daughter participants in this study engage in identity work as a strategy to cope with emotional pain during and post-separation in their new home country. According to Donnaline Lazecki, when people categorize themselves and their lived experiences in terms of a particular troubled identity, they use identity work to transform that troubled identity or to adopt a new positive one. For example, when a mother is separated from her daughter or vice versa, they use identity work to reconstruct the self and use it as a resource to cope with separation. They reject identities that are related to resentment or regret. By engaging in identity work, the mother and daughter participants changed the definition of the situation from unthinkable to tolerable. Because identity work is continuously in flux and reactive, future research has the potential to capture the many stages of migrant women's identity in a longitudinal study. Thank you so much for your attention, and good luck to my fellow Bruins presenting in Research Week. Thank you.